the difficulty of being able to communicate this. I spent about 5 hours working on this lesson, just trying to get it all ready because of all the things that you have to talk about here. So I wish they would split it into a couple lessons, just because it does take a lot of information to go through. So what I'm going to ask right now, Shai and TJ, if you can divvy these out to everybody, one to each person. And so, just kind of giving us some background, I'm going to ask that you get your Bibles out, because we're going to do a lot of reading, but I'm going to let you just follow along and listen. But there's a lot of reading that we are going to go through. It's going to be chapter 25 through 31, and a lot of detail is going to be covered. And hopefully, as you get the chance to go through the lesson here together with us, you'll kind of get an idea of some of the things that are being said. They are, when you're reading it, it can be a little difficult to understand all the detail that does get mentioned out. Today we are talking about the tabernacle, the building of the tabernacle, and it is amazing. It's not a bunch of details just for the sake of us skipping over and not really paying attention. There are reasons why everything's being done. Now, if you remember up to this point, we've seen God's holiness and His justice on display. God has given the Israelites basically His covenant with them, and part of the covenant is that they were to make no gods before Him. They were not to bow down and worship any god. And you remember Moses is up in the mountain, and what are they doing? They made an idol. They made a golden calf, and they're worshiping it. And you remember we saw last time God's jealousy on display. Because God is holy, He's not going to just overlook that kind of behavior, especially when they just promised they would keep a covenant with Him that said they wouldn't do that, right? And so even to the point that they had we talked about it a few weeks back, a covenantal meal with God, where they sat down and said, we're on the same page with you. We're on same fellowship with you. We are your people. You are our God. You have the authority to tell us what we can and cannot do. But they did what they were going to do. And so God dealt with them, bringing a plague. And not only that, Moses himself began that process of taking people out. Now, today, we're going to talk about, we skipped over it just because this activity takes a while to do, the tabernacle itself. And the tabernacle, if you'll notice in the picture there, you got a lot of different things here. You have what's, the tabernacle, if you read in your Bible, you'll sometimes understand the tabernacle means this whole setup, which would be what's called the courtyard on the outside, plus everything. So if you see tabernacle, sometimes it's talking about the entire setup and everything in it. Sometimes it's just referring to this tent right here. In fact, tabernacle means tent, okay? And this tent, you've got all the pieces. We're going to look at these in detail a little bit. You got the altar, a burnt offering. It's also called the brazen altar, okay? You'll see that used as well. You have what's called the brass basin. It's also called the laver pool. It's where the priest would wash his hands before he would wash his hands and his feet before he would come into the tabernacle. Inside the tabernacle, you have the table of showbread. It sat on the right-hand side. It was where pieces of bread would be stacked up. How many pieces? How many loaves, they called it? How many? 12. 12 would be stacked up, and it would be renewed every week, okay? And we'll talk more about what that means. Then you had in the middle, you had what was called the altar of incense. It's also called the golden altar in the Bible. And this is where you would have incense constantly going up before the Holy of Holies, as you'll see in just a minute. Then you had the candlestick, which sat on the left side, because you have no light inside there, and this was the means by the light. And even that has symbolic references to it, and we'll see that in a minute. Then the Ark of the Covenant. And the Ark of the Covenant sits back here behind the second veil. So you have two different veils. You have the veil that keeps everybody out except priest, and then you have an inner veil on the inside that keeps all the priests out except one. Who's the only priest that can go in? The high priest. And how often can he go? Once a year, okay? And then you got a picture of what a priest actually looked like, the high priest looked like. It looks kind of funny, but every little piece that they have on them has symbolic meaning to it, okay? And so we're going to look at some of those details, not all of them, but we'll look at some of the details in good detail. So first off, that worksheet that you got there, we're going to do it kind of in two parts there. You got the Ark of the Covenant, and then you got the reference there at the top, and then all the other ones, table of showbread, golden candlestick, tabernacle, altar of burnt offerings, outer court, altar of incense, and then the artisans. And we're going to spend the time. It's going to require you, if you want to really participate here, in doing some writing. But I want to let you, instead of us reading all of this, I want to ask you follow along. And then I'm going to show you a video that describes some of the things that you get to see, that you're hearing about, that helps you understand what's actually going on. So ask you to open up your Bibles. First off, we're going to just do the audio right now, Richard. We're going to listen to Exodus 25, 10 to 22. So get out your Bibles there, Exodus 25, 10 to 22, and we're going to see how this is described. We're going to talk about the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant. All righty, here we go. Shh. All right, let's get back here. Let's get back.
Thereof, and thou shalt overlay it with pure gold. Within and without shalt thou overlay it, and shalt make upon it a crown of gold round about. And thou shalt cast 4 rings of gold for it, and put them in the 4 corners thereof. And 2 rings shall be in the one side of it, and 2 rings in the other side of it. And thou shalt make staves of shittim wood, and overlay them with gold. And thou shalt put the staves into the rings by the sides of the ark, that the ark may be borne with them. The staves shall be in the rings of the ark, they shall not be taken from it. And thou shalt put into the ark the testimony which I shall give thee.
What's
and
the
thou
testimony?
shalt make a mercy seat of pure gold.
10 Commandments.
2 cubits and a half shall be the length thereof, and 1 cubit and a half the breadth thereof. And thou shalt make 2 cherubims of gold. Of beaten work shalt thou make them in the 2 ends of the mercy seat. And make 1 cherub on the one end, and the other cherub on the other end. Even of the mercy seat shall ye make the cherubims on the 2 ends thereof. And the cherubims shall stretch forth their wings on high, covering the mercy seat with their wings, and their faces shall look one to another. Toward the mercy seat shall the faces of the cherubims be. And thou shalt put the mercy seat above upon the ark, and in the ark thou shalt put the testimony that I shall give thee. And there I will meet with thee, and I will commune with thee from above the mercy seat, from between the 2 cherubims which are upon the ark of the testimony, of all things which I will give thee in commandment unto the children of Israel.
Okay. So we are to take some descriptions of this, but I'm going to let you watch a video of this. It's kind of an old, outdated video in the sense of the technology is not as high, so you're going to see some pixelation of it. But it will give exactly what we just read in detail, and it'll be putting it together as you're watching it. So this is the video, The Ark of the Covenant.
Make an ark of acacia wood, a sacred chest, 3 3/4 feet long, 2 1/4 feet wide, and 2 1/4 feet high. Overlay it inside and outside with pure gold, and put a molding of gold all around it. Cast 4 rings of gold for it, and attach them to its 4 feet, 2 rings on each side. Make poles from acacia wood and overlay them with gold. Fit the poles into the rings at the sides of the ark to carry it. These carrying poles must never be taken from the rings. They are to be left there permanently. When the ark is finished, place inside it the stone tablets inscribed with the terms of the covenant which I will give to you. Then make the ark's cover, the place of atonement, out of pure gold. It must be 3 3/4 feet long, and 2 1/4 feet wide. Then used hammered gold to make 2 cherubim and place them at the 2 ends of the atonement cover. Attach the cherubim to each end of the atonement cover, making it all one piece. The cherubim will face each other, looking down on the atonement cover with their wings spread out above it. Place inside the ark the stone tablets inscribed with the terms of the covenant, which I will give to you. Then put the atonement cover on top of the ark. I will meet with you there, and talk to you from above the atonement cover between the gold cherubim that hover over the ark of the covenant. From there, I will give you my commands for the people of Israel.
Okay, so let's get a few descriptions here. Did anybody notice some differences, obviously, in what they said and what was in there? He's basically just paraphrasing everything that's said. Okay, so he calls it in the Bible here shittim wood. The word shittim wood is actually the word acacia, or it's the kind of wood acacia. Anybody ever seen an acacia tree before? What's unique about an acacia tree? Anybody ever seen what's all over an acacia tree? There are thorns this big, literally covers every branch all over the tree. And this is a tree that's made of thorns. So this has some significance in it, doesn't it? If we think about thorn. Anybody remember somebody getting to wear a crown of thorns? Do you know where it probably came from? An acacia tree. Okay, that's where most likely it would have come from. So this acacia tree is the wood that he actually makes every bit of the furniture except the golden candlestick from. Every bit of the furniture has this as its underlayment before it becomes the full piece of furniture. So that's important to know. So what's on the outside of this altar and on the inside? Yeah, it's gold, okay? It has corners. On the corners or something on it. Rings. And in those rings, you have these staves that they themselves are made of acacia wood, and they are overlaid with. And are you ever to pick up the ark by yourself? Anybody got an idea? What's those staves for then? To carry it. You're never to touch it. Does anybody know an example of somebody who touched the ark at one point and died? His name was who? What was his name? It was Uzzah. Uzzah, and they tried to, instead of carrying it like the priests were supposed to, he decided that they're going to put it on a cart, brand new cart that's never been used. That'll work. And then the oxen starts to do something that jolted the cart, and the thing started to tip, and he tried to stop it, and he stopped it all right, and then he stopped too. Fell over dead. Okay? And so this is never to be touched. It's something significant. Why is it called the Ark of the Covenant? Because the Ten Commandments. It's to continually remind Israel the covenant they made with their God. Stone tablets. Yeah, he ends up having to make another set. There's another set that are made, and it's not God that makes it this time. It's Moses that makes it, and then God finishes it for him. Yeah. We're past that one, Brother David. All right. Second thing, on the top. What's on the top of the ark? Two cherubim covering the top of it. And it says, and they are looking over each other. Does anybody remember what Lucifer was called in the Bible? He was called the covering cherub. The covering cherub, if you read in Isaiah chapter 14. I believe he's probably would have been symbolized in that. But what you have here is this mercy seat. It's also called the seat of atonement. Would be where they would come and they would sprinkle blood upon the top of that mercy seat, and it'd be where God himself would dwell. That's what he said at the end of that video there, that God himself would speak from the top of that mercy seat. And there's this kind of like holiness where the angels are hovering around or covering the top of this place. Okay? So if you want to put a few of those things in there, those are some of the descriptions. All right, the next one we're going to look at is what's called the table of showbread. And again, if you remember, the table of showbread is on the right-hand side if you were to walk into the tabernacle itself, into the tent. And to read that, open up to 25:23, right where we left off, and down to verse number 30. Okay?
Thou shalt also make a table of shittim wood. 2 cubits shall be the length thereof, and a cubit the breadth thereof, and a cubit and a half the height thereof. And thou shalt overlay it with pure gold, and make thereto a crown of gold round about. And thou shalt make unto it a border, of an handbreadth round about. And thou shalt make a golden crown to the border thereof round about. And thou shalt make for it 4 rings of gold, and put the rings in the 4 corners that are on the 4 feet thereof. Over against the border shall the rings be for places of the staves to bear the table. And thou shalt make the staves of shittim wood, and overlay them with gold, that the table may be borne with them. And thou shalt make the dishes thereof, and spoons thereof, and covers thereof, and bowls thereof, to cover withal, of pure gold shalt thou make them. And thou shalt set upon the table showbread before me alway.
Okay, so let's look at this in video form, show you kind of what they're saying and how this would have played out. Now, they got a really different look of how they make it than you see in the picture there. And that's okay, because we're kind of allowed interpretation here. None of us were there to see how this was made. Okay, so this is just to kind of doing their best to follow through what the scripture says. All right, here you go.
Then make a table of acacia wood, 3 feet long, 1.5 feet wide, and 2 1/4 feet high. Overlay it with pure gold, and run a molding of gold around it. Put a rim about 3 inches wide around the top edge, and put a gold molding all around the rim. Make 4 gold rings, and put the rings at the 4 corners by the 4 legs, close to the rim around the top. These rings will support the poles used to carry the table. Make these poles from acacia wood and overlay them with gold. And make gold plates and dishes, as well as pitchers and bowls to be used in pouring out drink offerings. You must always keep the special bread of the presence on the table before me.
You notice they call it the bread of the presence. That's exactly what the meaning of the word showbread is. It's to be shown before God in His presence. So again, what's this made of? What kind of wood? It's made of acacia wood, or shittim wood, as it says it there, and it is overlaid with gold. The crown of decoration that goes around the top of it, that serves sort of as a type of border. Even though it's a decoration, it serves as a type of border to keep things from, you would think, sloshing off or falling off, because they are serving both what you'd say bread offering or meal offerings, or as it's called meat in the Bible, offerings. And they would also serve what are called libations or drink offerings. And so you would see both of those being put on top of the table of showbread. Corners. What do you got in the corners again? Rings, 4 gold rings. And then you've got staves, also made of the same kind of wood, overlaid with gold. What comes with it? What are the little instruments that come with this furniture? You got dishes, spoons, bowls, covers, all sorts of things that are to be all made of what? Pure gold. And there's to be this continual presence before God. Now, so what's the purpose of the table of showbread? Well, the table of showbread was to basically be sort of a memorial that Israel was saying our works are being yielded up to God. How do they demonstrate their tithes and offerings to God anyways? Usually not in the means of money, but in the means of grain, because that's where they got their wealth from, out of the field. And so it'd be constantly offered up, and it was saying as a way in which we are offering our works up to God. And that's the image or the picture here. It's a way of them saying we are dedicated to God as God is dedicated to us. Okay? That's the kind of imagery that's putting on display. But there's more to it, and we'll get to it in just a minute. All right, golden candlestick. And this one picks up where we left off, verse 31 down to verse 40. Okay, here we go.
And thou shalt make a candlestick of pure gold. Of beaten work shall the candlestick be made. His shaft and his branches, his bowls, his knops, and his flowers shall be of the same. And 6 branches shall come out of the sides of it, 3 branches of the candlestick out of the one side, and 3 branches of the candlestick out of the other side. 3 bowls made like unto almonds, with a knop and a flower in one branch, and 3 bowls made like almonds in the other branch, with a knop and a flower, So in the 6 branches that
The
come
word
out of
knob
the
there
candlestick,
is another word for
and in the
knob,
candlestick shall be
something
4
that's
bowls
being
made like
turned,
unto
or
almonds,
valve.
with their knops and their flowers. And there shall be a knop under 2 branches of the same, and a knop under 2 branches of the same, and a knop under 2 branches of the same, according to the 6 branches that proceed out of the candlestick. Their knops and their branches shall be of the same. All it shall be one beaten work of pure gold. And thou shalt make the 7 lamps thereof, and they shall light the lamps thereof, that they may give light over against it. And the tongs thereof, and the snuff dishes thereof, shall be of pure gold. Of a talent of pure gold shall he make it, with all these vessels. And look that thou make them after their pattern, which was showed thee in the mount.
Okay, so that's the text. Now that we're going to watch it put to display, here we go.
Make a lampstand of pure hammered gold. The entire lampstand and its decorations will be one piece. The base, center stem, lamp cups, buds, and blossoms. It will have 6 branches, 3 branches going out from each side of the center stem. Each of the 6 branches will hold a cup shaped like an almond blossom, complete with buds and petals. The center stem of the lampstand will be decorated with 4 almond blossoms, complete with buds and petals. 1 blossom will be set beneath each pair of branches where they extend from the center stem. The decorations and branches must all be one piece with the stem, and they must be hammered from pure gold. Then make the 7 lamps for the lampstand, and set them so they reflect their light forward. The lamp snuffers and trays must also be made of pure gold. You will need 75 pounds of pure gold for the lampstand and its accessories. Be sure that you make everything according to the pattern I have shown you here on the mountain.
Now we're going to get into the tabernacle here in just a moment, but this is this is the only light in the entire tabernacle. But on the inside of the tabernacle, the walls were of gold. And so, can you imagine what this would have looked like if you'd been inside there to see the reflection of this all the way around on the inside of the tabernacle? So, it would have been very bright, even with just that little bit of a lamp in there. Okay? When we get to the temple, the building of the temple, they have more than one of those in there. The temple ends up having like three of them in there at one point of these candlesticks. But tabernacle is a little different. It's a tent that's meant to be taken down and put together continually. All right, so first off, we learn here, this one is not made of wood in any way, is it? It's completely made of gold, one piece of gold. And unique about this, it's not to be cast gold in the sense that you melted it into a form. It's beaten gold. Anybody got any reason why God would say that? Beat it rather than cast gold. Again, it's picturing something yet future. That this is the one who would be beaten. Okay? It's made to look like a tree. What kind of tree, by the way? No, not an acacia tree. An olive tree with all its flowers and its buds on the tree. So anybody talk about the Christmas trees aren't in the Bible? There's your one right there. It's a lit up tree. Right there, okay? Probably not a Christmas tree, but it's a tree that's decorated for light, okay? Next thing we see here, you have how many branches on it? 6. And you got the trunk going up the middle, so how many lights on it? 7. Is 7 a significant number that God uses a lot in the Bible? What's the very first time He uses that number? On the very beginning week, on the 6 days of creation, the 7th being the day in which they rested. And then when you get into the book of Revelation, Jesus is described as the one taking care of the top of the candlestick, and the candlestick lights are the 7 churches. It's kind of a reference to the fact that they are the light of the world, even Himself being the light of the world. Okay, I don't want to jump ahead on that, but that's understandable why this is. What else goes with the candlestick? What are some of the tools or pieces that come with it? Knobs. You got tongs. What is a snuff dish? It'd be something that would be used to put the fire out. Yeah, it's similar to if you've gone to our candlelight service where Fred will come up and snuff out everything. That's a snuff dish, okay? And all of this is made of gold. Okay, tabernacle, I got 3 videos that'll go with this, but let's first read it. And it's a lengthier read here, but and then we're going to go through the videos to show it. We're going to look at, first off, the curtains, second, the walls, and then third, the veils, which are a little different than the curtains themselves. Or that. All right, so go ahead and open up to chapter 26, and we're going to read basically the whole chapter down to the end. Okay, here we go.
Chapter 26. Moreover, thou shalt make the tabernacle with 10 curtains of fine twined linen, and blue, and purple, and scarlet. With cherubims of cunning work shalt thou make them. The length of one curtain shall be 28 cubits, and the breadth of one curtain 4 cubits. And every one of the curtains shall have one measure. The 5 curtains shall be coupled together, one to another, and other 5 curtains shall be coupled one to another. And thou shalt make loops of blue upon the edge of the one curtain, from the selvage in the coupling. And likewise shalt thou make in the uttermost edge of another curtain, in the coupling of the second. 50 loops shalt thou make in the one curtain, and 50 loops shalt thou make in the edge of the curtain that is in the coupling of the second, that the loops may take hold one of another. And thou shalt make 50 tacks of gold, and couple the curtains together with the tacks, and it shall be one tabernacle. And thou shalt make curtains of goat's hair to be a covering upon the tabernacle. 11 curtains shalt thou make. The length of one curtain shall be 30 cubits, and the breadth of one curtain 4 cubits. And the 11 curtains shall be all of one measure. And thou shalt couple 5 curtains by themselves, and 6 curtains by themselves, and shalt double the 6th curtain in the forefront of the tabernacle. And thou shalt make 50 loops on the edge of the one curtain that is outmost in the coupling, and 50 loops in the edge of the curtain which coupleth the second. And thou shalt make 50 tacks of brass, and put the tacks into the loops, and couple the tent together, that it may be one. And the remnant that remaineth of the curtains of the tent, the half curtain that remaineth, shall hang over the backside of the tabernacle. And a cubit on the one side, and a cubit on the other side of that which remaineth in the length of the curtains of the tent. It shall hang over the sides of the tabernacle, on this side and on that side to cover it. And thou shalt make a covering for the tent of ram skins dyed red, and a covering above of badger skins. And thou shalt make boards for the tabernacle of shittim wood standing up. 10 cubits shall be the length of a board, and a cubit and a half shall be the breadth of one board. 2 tenons shall there be in one board, set in order one against another. Thus shalt thou make for all the boards of the tabernacle. And thou shalt make the boards for the tabernacle 20 boards on the south side southward. And thou shalt make 40 sockets of silver under the 20 boards. 2 sockets under one board for his 2 tenons, and 2 sockets under another board for his 2 tenons. And for the second side of the tabernacle on the north side there shall be 20 boards. And there 40 sockets of silver, 2 sockets under one board, and 2 sockets under another board. And for the sides of the tabernacle westward thou shalt make 6 boards. And 2 boards shalt thou make for the corners of the tabernacle in the 2 sides. And they shall be coupled together beneath, and they shall be coupled together above the head of it unto one ring. Thus shall it be for them both. They shall be for the 2 corners. And they shall be 8 boards, and their sockets of silver 16 sockets, 2 sockets under one board, and 2 sockets under another board. And thou shalt make bars of shittim wood, 5 for the boards of the one side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the boards of the other side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the boards of the side of the tabernacle, for the 2 sides westward. And the middle bar in the midst of the board shall reach from end to end. And thou shalt overlay the boards with gold, and make their rings of gold for places for the bars. And thou shalt overlay the bars with gold. And thou shalt rear up the tabernacle according to the fashion thereof, which was showed thee in the mount. And thou shalt make a veil of blue, and purple, and scarlet, and fine twined linen of cunning work. With cherubims shall it be made. And thou shalt hang it upon 4 pillars of shittim wood overlaid with gold. Their hooks shall be of gold upon the 4 sockets of silver. And thou shalt hang up the veil under the tacks, that thou mayest bring in thither within the veil the ark of the testimony. And the veil shall divide unto you between the holy place and the most holy. And thou shalt put the mercy seat upon the ark of the testimony in the most holy place. And thou shalt set the table without the veil, and the candlestick over against the table on the side of the tabernacle toward the south. And thou shalt put the table on the north side. And thou shalt make an hanging for the door of the tent, of blue and purple and scarlet, and fine twined linen, wrought with needlework. And thou shalt make for the hanging 5 pillars of shittim wood, and overlay them with gold, and their hooks shall be of gold. And thou shalt cast 5 sockets of brass for them.
By the way, did anybody notice that even when they set up the tent, it has to be situated in certain directions? That you have to have east, west, north, south set up in a certain way? You don't just set it up randomly how you want. There's even that has symbolism. Okay, so we're going to look at first off the walls made. I'm going kind of in a different order because I want you to see what's the understructure of this thing first.
The framework of the tabernacle will consist of frames made of acacia wood. Each frame must be 15 feet high and 2 1/4 feet wide. There will be 2 pegs on each frame so they can be joined to the next frame. All the frames must be made this way. 20 of these frames will support the south side of the tabernacle. They will fit into 40 silver bases, 2 bases under each frame. On the north side, there will also be 20 of these frames, with their 40 silver bases, 2 bases for each frame. On the west side, there will be 6 frames, along with an extra frame at each corner. These corner frames will be connected at the bottom and firmly attached at the top with a single ring forming a single unit. Both of these corner frames will be made the same way. So there will be 8 frames on that end of the tabernacle supported by 16 silver bases, 2 bases under each frame. Make crossbars of acacia wood to run across the frames. 5 crossbars for the north side of the tabernacle and 5 for the south side. Also make 5 crossbars for the rear of the tabernacle, which will face westward. The middle crossbar, halfway up the frames, will run all the way from one end of the tabernacle to the other. Overlay the frames with gold and make gold rings to support the crossbars. Overlay the crossbars with gold as well. Set up this tabernacle according to the design you were shown on the mountain.
By the way, did you hear that little last line? The design you were shown in the mount. So when you see the tabernacle, it's actually a picture of something else that was already there. Okay? And that's something the New Testament actually makes the point of. All right, let's look at the next one. These are the coverings. You got 5 different coverings. I believe it's 5 different coverings. Let me make sure that you have for this. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 coverings, sorry. 4 coverings. All right. So let's go show you what the inside and outside looks like, okay?
Make the tabernacle from 10 sheets of fine linen. These sheets are to be decorated with blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, with figures of cherubim skillfully embroidered into them. Each sheet must be 42 feet long and 6 feet wide. All 10 sheets must be exactly the same size. Join 5 of these sheets together into one set. Then join the other 5 sheets into a second set. Put loops of blue yarn along the edge of the last sheet in each set. The 50 loops along the edge of one set are to match the 50 loops along the edge of the other. Then make 50 gold clasps to fasten the loops of the 2 sets of sheets together, making the tabernacle a single unit. Make heavy sheets of cloth from goat hair to cover the tabernacle. There must be 11 of these sheets, each 45 feet long and 6 feet wide. All 11 of these sheets must be exactly the same size. Join 5 of these together into one set and join the other 6 into a second set. The 6th sheet of the second set is to be doubled over at the entrance of the sacred tent. Put 50 loops along the edge of the last sheet in each set, and fasten them together with 50 bronze clasps. In this way, the 2 sets will become a single unit. An extra half sheet of this roof covering will be left to hang over the back of the tabernacle, and the covering will hang down an extra 18 inches on each side. On top of these coverings, place a layer of tanned ram skins and and over them put a layer of fine goatskin leather. This will complete the roof cover.
Okay, so anybody wonder why they have the little attachments like that and then throw it? It's like, why don't you just attach the whole thing together? That's the question that comes up. But if you actually work out the understanding of what's going on, it divides right where the holy and the most holy places are. So you got two sides, one side that sits over the most holy place and the other side that sits over the part that would be considered just the holy place. So that's one of the reasons. Second, did you notice it goes from beautiful to not so beautiful? The beautiful stuff on the inside, but the not so beautiful on the outside. Anybody got a reason why that might be? If we're picturing the Lord Jesus Christ, on the inside, he is who? On the outside, who is he? He's man, right? The Bible says he came and he dwelt among us. The very word dwelt in the John chapter 1 is the word tabernacle. He came and tabernacled among us. He came and took on a tent among us, okay? All right. Then the last thing is going to be the actual veils. So we're going to look at those here.
Across the inside of the tabernacle hang a special curtain made of fine linen with cherubim skillfully embroidered into the cloth, using blue, purple, and scarlet yarn. Hang this inner curtain on gold hooks set into 4 posts made from acacia wood and overlaid with gold. The posts will fit into the silver bases. When the inner curtain is in place, put the Ark of the Covenant behind it. This curtain will separate the holy place from the most holy place. Then put the Ark's cover, the place of atonement, on top of the Ark of the Covenant, inside the most holy place. Place the table and lampstand across the room from each other outside the inner curtain. The lampstand must be placed on the south side, and the table must be set toward the north. Make another curtain from fine linen for the entrance of the sacred tent, and embroider exquisite designs into it, using blue, purple, and scarlet yarn. Hang this curtain on gold hooks set into 5 posts made from acacia wood and overlaid with gold. The post will fit into 5 bronze bases.
Okay, so let's go over these real quick. Tabernacle. First, what kind of wood's it made of? Acacia wood, overlaid with gold. It's made of lots of boards, big post boards, or boards that go up and down the sides, and they sit in what? These silver basins, okay? Then you've got coverings. How many are there now? I told you the number. There are 4 coverings. You have, first one's fine linen, second one goat hair, a covering made of goat hair, third ram skin, and 4 badger skin, okay? Then you got 2 veils, one in the front and one in the middle. The first veil keeps who out? I'm just giving you this if you should know it. Who does it keep out? Just regular people cannot go into this one. Second veil keeps who out? All the other priests except for one, and even he can't go in anytime he wants. How many times can he go in? Once in the year, okay? All right, so that's the setup we got going on. And those veils are really telling us one thing. God, you cannot access him. You cannot come to him when you want. And one of the things that's significant when Jesus died, does anybody remember what happened? It said in the middle of that temple, the veil ripped from top to bottom. It was God was saying, now you can come in. Yes, sir. I don't know. Sometimes they must have already known it. There were cherubs in the Garden of Eden. You remember that were said to guard the entrance for Adam and Eve not to come in? So they might have known that there, I guess. I don't know. So, altar of burnt offering, okay? This is also called the bronze altar. This is chapter 27, verse 1 to 8. Okay, here we go.
Chapter 27. And thou shalt make an altar of shittim wood, 5 cubits long and 5 cubits broad. The altar shall be 4 square, and the height thereof shall be 3 cubits. And thou shalt make the horns of it upon the 4 corners thereof. His horn shall be of the same. And thou shalt overlay it with brass. And thou shalt make his pans to receive his ashes, and his shovels, and his basins, and his flesh hooks, and his fire pans. All the vessels thereof thou shalt make of brass. And thou shalt make for it a grate of network of brass. And upon the net shalt thou make 4 brassen rings in the 4 corners thereof. And thou shalt put it under the compass of the altar beneath, that the net may be even to the midst of the altar. And thou shalt make staves for the altar, staves of shittim wood, and overlay them with brass. And the staves shall be put into the rings, and the staves shall be upon the 2 sides of the altar to bear it. Hollow with boards shalt thou make it. As it was showed thee in the mount, so shall they make it.
Okay, so here's the bronze altar we're going to look at here. And this is a unique altar as well. It's not overlaid with gold, it's overlaid with brass. Okay, so here we go.
Using acacia wood, make a square altar, 7.5 feet wide, 7.5 feet long, and 4.5 feet high. Make a horn in each of the 4 corners of the altar, so the horns and altar are all one piece. Overlay the altar and its horns with bronze. The ash buckets, shovels, basins, meat hooks, and fire pans will all be made of bronze. Make a bronze grating with a metal ring at each corner. Fit the grating halfway down into the firebox, resting it on the ledge built there. For moving the altar, make poles from acacia wood and overlay them with bronze. To carry it, put the poles into the rings at the 2 sides of the altar. The altar must be hollow, made from planks. Be careful to build it just as you were shown on the mountain.
Okay. Made of the same kind of wood, right? Overlaid with brass, has 4 horns on the corners. This isn't going to be the only one that has horns on its corners. People have guessed what these are, but there's a couple times in the Bible that you see specific usages of them. One, when the king who wanted, when Solomon was the king or was made the king, the one who wanted to be the king, the other of David's sons, when Solomon gets made the king, he goes, runs up, and he holds on to the horns of the altar, sort of as a way of saying, don't kill me, don't slaughter me, and he received mercy. So some people have actually said this was the horns of mercy in that kind of sense. I don't know, that might have just been a tradition that they did. But when we get into the golden altar, there's going to be horns on there, and they're supposed to put blood on the tips of those horns. So that's something unique about this. This place is a place of sacrifice. This is a place where animals are taken, slaughtered, and then burned on this altar. And it's constantly, one of the things we're going to find out, it has to constantly be burning. There's never a time when it's not burning. If you bring in fire outside of it, it's called strange fire. You're not supposed to bring it into this place. It's supposed to be constantly burning, and it's from that burning place that the other altar that we're going to see gets its coals from, okay? And we'll see that in a minute, all right? So, a few other things. Rings, where are they at? In the corners. Then it says, as a bronze grate of network, which is a way of saying it's something that kind of goes around the bottom. It's not at the top. It goes around the bottom of the altar. And it sort of serves as you saw in that video, as a placeholder to hold it together for when it sets on something else. And then you got shovels, fire pans, flesh hooks, all made of brass or bronze, okay? All right, next one. This is the outer court. This one's a unique one as well. And so let's look at this one, found in verses 9 to 19 of chapter 27, okay?
And thou shalt make the court of the tabernacle. For the south side southward there shall be hangings for the cord of fine twined linen, of 100 cubits long for one side. And the 20 pillars thereof, and their 20 sockets shall be of brass. The hooks of the pillars, and their fillets shall be of silver. And likewise for the north side in length there shall be hangings of 100 cubits long, and his 20 pillars, and their 20 sockets of brass, the hooks of the pillars, and their fillets of silver. And for the breadth of the court on the west side shall be hangings of 50 cubits, their pillars 10, and their sockets 10. And the breadth of the court on the east side eastward shall be 50 cubits. The hangings of one side of the gate shall be 15 cubits, their pillars 3, and their sockets 3. And on the other side shall be hangings 15 cubits, their pillars 3, and their sockets 3. And for the gate of the court shall be an hanging of 20 cubits, of blue and purple and scarlet, and fine twined linen, wrought with needlework. And their pillars shall be 4, and their sockets 4. All the pillars round about the court shall be filleted with silver. Their hooks shall be of silver, and their sockets of brass. The length of the court shall be 100 cubits, and the breadth 50, everywhere. And the height 5 cubits of fine twined linen, and their sockets of brass. All the vessels of the tabernacle and all the service thereof, and all the pins thereof, and all the pins of the court shall be of brass.
Okay. All right, let's watch this one here. This one's really interesting as you follow it. Okay, here we go. The outer court.
Then make a courtyard for the tabernacle, enclosed with curtains made from fine linen. On the south side, the curtains will stretch for 150 feet. They will be held up by 20 bronze posts that fit into 20 bronze bases. The curtains will be held up with silver hooks attached to the silver rods that are attached to the posts. It will be the same on the north side of the courtyard. 150 feet of curtains held up by 20 posts fitted into bronze bases with silver hooks and rods. The curtains on the west end of the courtyard will be 75 feet long, supported by 10 posts set into 10 bases. The east end will also be 75 feet long. The courtyard entrance will be on the east end, flanked by 2 curtains. The curtain on the right side will be 22.5 feet long, supported by 3 posts set into 3 bases. The curtain on the left side will also be 22.5 feet long, supported by 3 posts set into 3 bases. For the entrance to the courtyard, make a curtain that is 30 feet long. Fashion it from fine linen and decorate it with beautiful embroidery in blue, purple, and scarlet yarn. It will be attached to 4 posts that fit into 4 bases. All the posts around the courtyard must be connected by silver rods, using silver hooks. The posts are to be set in solid bronze bases. So the entire courtyard will be 150 feet long and 75 feet wide, with curtain walls 7.5 feet high, made from fine linen. The bases supporting its walls will be made of bronze. All the articles used in the work of the tabernacle, including all the tent pegs used to support the tabernacle and the courtyard curtains, must be made of bronze. Tell the people of Israel to bring you pure olive oil for the lampstand, so it can be kept burning continually. The lampstand will be placed outside the inner curtain of the most holy place in the tabernacle. Aaron and his sons will keep the lamps burning in the Lord's presence day.
All right, I'm going to go past that because we are not really talking about that. All right. The outer court. Everything's made of fine linen, right? Fine linen. So then you have the individual sheets are held up by pillars that are covered in what? Brass. And they're sitting in what kind of sockets? Brass sockets. Good. Okay, then you have a gate in the front, and it's made similarly to the inner covering of the tabernacle. It's made of fine twined linen with all of the decoration in it. And it's held up by pillars that are resting in what kind of sockets? Not bronze, silver. Silver. You say, what's the significance of that? Well, I'll show you some of that in just a minute. Huh? It's the entrance point. It's supposed to be beautiful. All right. In fact, I think that if I remember right, in the New Testament, on one of the gates that let you into the temple itself was called the gate called Beautiful. So that itself might play into that. Okay. Altar of incense. Chapter 30, verse 1 to 10.
And thou shalt make an altar to burn incense upon. Of shittim wood shalt thou make it. A cubit shall be the length thereof, and a cubit the breadth thereof. 4 square shall it be, and 2 cubits shall be the height thereof. The horns thereof shall be of the same. And thou shalt overlay it with pure gold, the top thereof, and the sides thereof round about, and the horns thereof. And thou shalt make unto it a crown of gold round about. And 2 golden rings shalt thou make to it under the crown of it, by the 2 corners thereof. Upon the 2 sides of it shalt thou make it, and they shall be for places for the staves to bear it withal. And thou shalt make the staves of shittim wood, and overlay them with gold. And thou shalt put it before the veil that is by the ark of the testimony, before the mercy seat that is over the testimony, where I will meet with thee. And Aaron shall burn thereon sweet incense every morning. When he dresseth the lamps, he shall burn incense upon it. And when Aaron lighteth the lamps at even, he shall burn incense upon it, a perpetual incense before the Lord throughout your generations. Ye shall offer no strange incense thereon, nor burnt sacrifice, nor meat offering, neither shall ye pour drink offering thereon. And Aaron shall make an atonement upon the horns of it once in a year, with the blood of the sin offering of atonements. Once in the year shall he make atonement upon it throughout your generations. It is most holy unto the Lord.
Okay, let's watch this in video now.
Then make a small altar out of acacia wood for burning incense. It must be 18 inches square and 3 feet high, with horns at the corners carved from the same piece of wood as the altar. Overlay the top, sides, and horns of the altar with pure gold, and run a gold molding around the entire altar. Beneath the molding, on opposite sides of the altar, attach 2 gold rings to support the carrying poles. The poles are to be made of acacia wood and overlaid with gold. Place the incense altar just outside the inner curtain, opposite the ark's cover, the place of atonement, that rests on the ark of the covenant. I will meet with you there. Every morning when Aaron trims the lamps, he must burn fragrant incense on the altar. And each evening when he tends to the lamps, he must again burn incense in the Lord's presence. This must be done from generation to generation. Do not offer any unholy incense on this altar, or any burnt offerings, grain offerings, or drink offerings. Once a year, Aaron must purify the altar by placing on its horns the blood from the offering made for the atonement of sin. This will be a regular annual event from generation to generation, for this is the Lord's supremely holy altar.
Okay, so what kind of wood? Shittim wood, acacia wood, overlaid with gold. 4 horns in the corners. Not 4 rings, but 2 rings in the opposite corners. Obviously staves of gold made of the same wood and overlaid with gold. Then there's a crown that goes around the top, which serves not only as a decoration, but as a sort of like a holding spot so nothing comes over it. And then it's to set before where? Right before the veil, just outside of the Ark of the Covenant, okay? All right, and we'll see some significance of that, reason why that's done. Then we're going to look at one last thing, and this isn't videos, but these are the artisans. This just tells you the people that made it and how God even picked those people out and gave them the ability to make these things that they have. So look over at chapter 31, and I'll let you hear it again. Okay, here we go.
Chapter 31. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, See, I have called by name Bezaleel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur of the tribe of Judah, and I have filled him with the Spirit of God, in wisdom, and in understanding, and in knowledge, and in all manner of workmanship, to devise cunning works, to work in gold, and in silver, and in brass, and in cutting of stones to set them, and in carving of timber, to work in all manner of workmanship. And I, behold, I have given with him Aholiab, the son of Ahisamach, of the tribe of Dan, and in the hearts of all that are wise-hearted I have put wisdom, that they may make all that I have commanded thee. The tabernacle of the congregation, and the ark of the testimony, and the mercy seat that is thereupon, and all the furniture of the tabernacle, and the table, and his furniture, and the pure candlestick with all his furniture, and the altar of incense, and the altar of burnt offering with all his furniture, and the laver and his foot, and the cloths of service, and the holy garments for Aaron the priest, and the garments of his sons to minister in the priest's office, and the anointing oil, and sweet incense for the holy place, according to all that I have commanded thee, shall they do.
Okay, so first off, we find out these guys are filled with the Spirit of God. You got two names. What are they? The two guys that God uses. Aholiab and Bezalel, right? Okay, and he's given them wisdom to build these things. Where do they get all these things from, by the way? From the people that offered, okay? Let me finish real quick. We're not going to be able to do the whole thing, but sort of some of the application. Come on, sit down. Some of the application that we see used. Ark of the Covenant. Application. Christ himself is the one who would enter into the true Holy of Holies and offer his own sacrifice. And that's what we see in Hebrews chapter 9, verse 6 through 15, where his blood would be sprinkled on top of the mercy seat. Okay? Then table of showbread. Jesus himself in John chapter 6 calls himself the bread that comes down from God. And it's sort of a way, if we were to take the full picture of what the Ark of the Covenant or the tabernacle itself was putting on display, is that God offers himself, or the Lord Jesus offers himself, his works completely to God. Okay? Golden candlestick. Jesus said in John 8, I am the light of the world. I am the light of the world. And he pictures that being put on display. Tabernacle itself. It's a picture of the true tabernacle. We saw it 2 or 3 times. He said, make it after the pattern of the thing you saw. Okay? And in the New Testament book of Hebrews, it says that Jesus went into the true tabernacle, not made with hands. Not made with hands. Okay? Altar burnt offerings. The offerings on the Old Testament altar served as a continual reminder that sin needed to be atoned for. Sin needed to be atoned for. And Christ, our priest, offered himself on that altar, but not the altar of the one made with hands, but another altar, and accomplished the work. And one of the things it says in Hebrews, and sat down. The priests don't get to sit down. They continually do it. Jesus Christ did it once and sat down, and it's over with. Which is a way of saying, debt's paid. No longer do we need to go and be part of this. Okay? Outer court. One of the things it says in Ephesians that when a person gets saved, that Jesus tears down the middle wall of partition. If you were to, in the temple grounds, they had all these walls on the outside of the tabernacle or the temple that kept people separated, and Jews and Gentiles even couldn't be united together in the temple grounds. And so he's saying that what Jesus has done, he's ripped down the walls now. It's similar to what we saw in the tabernacle itself, or the temple itself, that the veil was ripped. God has taken out all the boundaries in Jesus Christ. The veil that keeps people from God is who? Or is what? It's our sin. And Jesus, in his sacrifice, ripped that all away. Okay? And then altar of incense. Revelation chapter 8 actually references the altar of incense as being a reference to prayers that are continually going up. Hebrews chapter 7, I put this one in there as well. Christ ever lives to make intercession for his own. And that's a sort of a way of saying that he doesn't just save you and then say, try to keep it, but he keeps you saved. Right? And so that's what the altar of incense is constantly demonstrating as well. Okay? There's more to it. I wish we could have more time to it, but we've run out of time. But I hope you got a good picture and understanding of how some of this stuff works. So when you hear things said, when we go through and we talk about the altar, you're going to think, which altar? Bronze or golden altar? Well, you kind of read the context, you'll know. When you hear other things said about the tabernacle, you're going to know exactly what they're talking about now. Or the temple. We'll get to the temple in the days of Solomon. And it's going to be similar but different than this. All right? So I hope this is helpful to you to get the idea. And God is putting this on as a picture of the Lord Jesus Christ and what he would do to accomplish salvation for us. All right, let's be dismissed in prayer. Brother David, can you dismiss us in prayer?